It's going back to this hygiene factor of, it doesn't have germs, and that, of course, in a COVID world is a huge benefit today.
Yeah.
I understand that post-COVID, you've had like 94 universities reach out to you about doing online career fairs. I'm assuming this is a huge uptick in the volume of work. How have you dealt with that? How has your company dealt with that?
Absolutely. So when we started the Techstars program in the last week of January. So that was when we joined with pretty much 3 team members and 4 engineers, remote engineers. So it was pretty much like super small team. Of course, we were working towards scaling and bigger, sort of like, the state that we become super popular, but we weren't quite ready. We weren't expecting that to come much sooner. And I still remember the exact date. It was March 11th. That's when universities, basically the nationally universities went off campus. And
that's also, by the way, that's the date of Fukushima, I believe, March 11th from memory.
Oh, okay. Oops. And that's when we started seeing this like unexpected inbounds, and we knew something was up. And then we started noticing from the inbounds that like campuses went off. I mean, like online pretty much. So from there on, we started like talking to pretty much on average 3 to 5 universities every day. Since then, so it was lots of inbounds because of our early customers like Columbia and all. They referred us as one of the newer and better, kind of cooler virtual career fair platform. So they started getting information within the industry, kind of like a word of mouth. And then we started getting lots of inbounds since then. So it was purely inbounds. We have been actually really busy handling the inbounds because we weren't ready for this. And we were trying our best to handle the inbounds conversations as much as possible with the limited resources we have. But yeah, we now added 2 more team members even during those times.
Wow, so that's super cool. So you actually, during the beginning of COVID, were in Berlin as one of the chosen few in this Techstars Accelerator program. So I wanted to back up on that. That's very interesting. I mean, a couple of angles I would like to explore here. First of all, how do you decide? You're based in Silicon Valley. You've already got a company, a small, a startup, and how do you decide to participate in the Techstars Accelerator program in Berlin? Why did you do that, and what did it bring to you or to your company?
Right. So I just wanted to kind of update a bit of information over there. So I used to be based in Silicon Valley. I actually moved out of California and moved to London part-time for the visa. I'm basically one of those international students. I'm sure in Sacred Heart University there are quite a bit of international students, I can imagine. And so I was there because there are a lot of higher education scene going on. It made sense. I started going back and forth between Berlin because the city is just really cool, and ended up connecting with managing director of Techstars Berlin here in Berlin. And I think location really didn't matter. First of all, I love Berlin. It's much longer runway. Cost of living is way lower than any other major cities around the world, considering how it's actually a major city in the world. And also, because it's Techstars, it's such a global network that where you are, it doesn't really matter because you're plugged into the global network. So whomever you need to speak to, whomever you need to connect with, it's just sort of like, it's that global network there. So location didn't really matter. Another thing that really mattered was that chemistry between our team and the Techstars team. So I thought this managing director was really awesome. Jack is one of the most amazing people I've met. He's there to help, and he's one of those few people who got what I was trying to do before everyone actually understood what virtual career fair was about. So there was that factor. So I moved to Berlin to participate in the program.
Cool. And why, if you're already getting traction, you already have a viable business model, you already had your first clients before you went into the Techstars
Yeah.
program, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then what did you, why did you think it was worthwhile?
Mm-hmm.
And did it turn out that way? I mean, what did you get out of Techstars?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the really good accelerator programs like Techstars have few benefits. First of all, is pre-seed money, which gives a little more leg room for us to kind of play around with, maybe hire like one or two more people, or use money on marketing, etc. So it definitely gives a bit of more leg room for a lot of teams. And second is definitely people. So we get to earn this army of new people, including fellow startups, from Techstars management team to fellow startups to this network of advisors, investors, and all those other people who are working on amazing things. So that was absolutely great. And third is the program itself. So they run workshops around important topics, from how to operate business, legal side, to accounting, to how to build the product and how to build that roadmap, all kinds of matters. So it gives us more structures to run the company properly, as opposed to before it was just kind of like, figuring things out on the fly all the time. So coming out of Techstars, we feel like we've earned like huge network of people and got that structure to move faster.
Very cool. So I'm seeing one question that I wanted to come back on also. You mentioned you went with two other colleagues to Berlin, right? And I believe all three of you were female. And there is a question of what advice do you give for female entrepreneurs, and do you feel it's easier or harder for females?
Right. So I think it all depends on how we look at it. Of course, there were times that I felt that it was not really, benefiting me. But on the other hand, there are a lot of like other opportunities that really highlight female entrepreneurs. So I think if you are really kind of like confident in what you're building, if you know that you're solving certain problems, I don't think, first of all, there's any issue of being a female entrepreneur. Second of all, I think because there are so many highlighting, these female entrepreneurs, there are a lot of efforts going on. So you can even potentially, utilize those opportunities to see if there are other ways to, grow your businesses, or other ways to get more resources that way. So I think that absolutely it depends on how we look at it.
Mm-hmm. And you were an econ major in undergrad,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Very often people think that in order to be a successful entrepreneur, especially in this space, you need to have some kind of tech background. Do you think sometimes you have an advantage because you're actually a generalist?
I actually think so. I thought about it yesterday, and then I feel like I'm good at many different things, but like 70-80%. It's definitely not 100%. So like when I can build certain things of different components of different companies at certain level, kind of like good enough. And if I really need to ramp it up, then I can find someone who are much better than I do those things. So I think it's definitely an advantage, and you get to see like different sort of like holistic, you get to have holistic view of your company and the product and business, rather than you're so like focused on just one part and forgetting about everything. So I think it's actually a huge advantage for sure.
Huh, super interesting. So I'm just wondering, listening to you, I'm still getting my head around, having 94 universities reach out to you in a period of a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, and trying to figure out how to deal with all that. And I hear you saying, okay, well, so of course I break it down into, something I can deal with. I hire additional engineers. I go after it. But at the same time, I'm just wondering on a personal level, I mean, how do you handle the stress? I mean, do you still sleep? What kind of, what kind of techniques do you have to keep focused without burning out?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think definitely last 2 months since mid-March to pretty much like up until last week, Friday, it's been nonstop calls all the time. So I pretty much gave up on kind of like a personal, not personal, but then like those like evening routines and morning routines that I used to enjoy a lot, definitely shortened quite a bit. But I felt like that was time that I had to give up. I think there are phases where we have to put a lot of more effort and put up with a lot more things than other times that we can balance things out. So I was actually also very grateful. When was I gonna experience that kind of like uptake that much? It came a lot sooner. So I was overall very grateful, but definitely there were a lot of stressful moments. So I think it's probably a generic answer, but I am a huge fan of yoga and meditation. So those are something that I do every morning, if possible, also every night. And I'm actually a recent convert to Christianity. So I turn to prayer and the Bible every day as well.
Wow, that's excellent. So if I go back to, I'm still trying to understand exactly your business model. So it sounds like you try to, I completely understand the pain point and your motivation in trying to, boost accessibility, connect people, and improve the hygiene factor of career fairs. But I just wonder, like, how do you convert that into a business model where you have revenue streams? So can you explain a little bit about your business models?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually super simple. So first model is a fee based. When we first started, because it was just like only a couple of customers just wanting to try out 1 or 2 events, so we had the per event fee. So basically, we give this virtual space and give their students and employers a place to come connect all these features. So it was per event fee. Eventually, these universities and other universities were asking for the annual plan, because when first it's sort of like a university system to have adopt system or software for annual base. So that was one, and also they wanted to use Highre multiple times a year. So they were asking for the annual pricing. So we launched annual pricing. So the fee base, it's pretty simple. We get the fee and we provide the virtual career event space and features to those universities. So that was basically it. And recently, as we see, a lot of universities are turning virtual very fast before they are even quite ready, and before they even have any budget in place, or even have there's so much uncertainty going on. So we started launching the revenue share model so that more universities can start without any pressure of putting up a huge fee. Depends on which option, but like a fee, then they can just start with it and share the revenue going forward. So that's another model that we recently launched.
So was that instigated by COVID? Because we all had major budget cuts in universities, right? About March 11th.
Absolutely. So yeah, we definitely see how a lot of universities, again, like there was no, it's so new to everybody. There was no expected plan for anything at all. So but then they still had to figure something out while they don't even have any budget in place.
So then basically, who does the marketing then to companies? So if I understand the revenue sharing model, the companies who are coming to try to find people pay to play, essentially? They pay to be part of it? So who does the marketing to the companies? Is it Highre, or is it the universities? How does that work?
So when we work with universities, they usually do have their very targeted employers from pre-existing employer relationships. For example, one of the events that we did last week with John Jay College of CUNY, they were strictly with law enforcement. So my inbox will be full of emails from FBI, NYPD, US Army, which was pretty interesting. And then on the other hand, there were other types of employers with other type of universities. Art school, they have strictly art related employers, so they usually bring on their employers. But also we run multi-university career fairs that are more general. In that case, we do marketing for our own events to employers.
I see. And is that a trend you see? I mean, today, you know, is the era of university-specific career fairs, is that something that's drawing to a close? Do you see more of these thematic career fairs?
So what I see a lot from speaking to a lot of different universities for the last few weeks is that they're definitely looking at, because they had to throw some like event on campus, it's lots of time, lots of money, lots of effort. So they would rather throw something big, like 100, 200 employers on campus, 1 or 2 days, only because that was more manageable that way. But now things are moving virtual, things are becoming more flexible. A lot of universities are actually looking into running boutique events, like under STEM, under liberal arts, or under different like topics or industries. So I see that the trend is going that way. And also because universities are now becoming more open to different options, because they're realizing that, okay, we're not bound by location anymore. We can literally collaborate with universities from completely different regions. So we see that a lot, that like some of the universities are basically coming from all different different regions of the US, want to join some of the initiatives of our multi-university career fairs under certain themes. So we see that things are becoming more boutique, more smaller, and universities are becoming more open to collaboration, as opposed to before it's like exclusively our students only. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. So, you know, one of the things that we get measured on at the universities is career outcomes, right? So we're supposed to, like in the rankings, which none of us want to admit that it's important, but it is important. And one of the things that a lot of the ranking agencies track is career outcomes. And they look at, you know, how many of your students are employed in their field of their major, you know, 10 months out or 9 months out. How many of them are employed 6 months out? One question I have is, you know, okay, if we start grouping together with other universities for career fairs, is there an offer there? And maybe you're already addressing that need. I mean, would you be able to supply to the participating universities metrics that would help us to measure those career outcomes going forward?
Right. So another feature that we are working on is the tracking. So after these employers and students, you know, talk to each other and they sort of drop a resume to each other, join these group sessions, what's next, where are they going? So that's another feature that we are heavily working on right now, so that we can provide more visibility into that particular metrics for universities. And another thing is like those metrics set by certain institutions, I think that can be reconsidered. Nowadays, like a psychology major can easily join user experience designer role, or a designer team, or, you know, English literature major can join a completely different type of job. So I think that metrics can be a bit more updated for sure, because the academic background and the actual career choice, I think there is bigger and bigger gap happening in that moment. Yeah.
And do you see more international participants? You know, going to your earlier point about, hey, I grew up in South Korea, I would have loved to have access to this kind of information. Do you see that in the future, where you'll even have not just universities from one region or a tri-state region, whatever, who are grouping together, but maybe a university here and a university in India, for example? Would you imagine that ever happening?
So I think that would be actually a really great initiative. Some universities have global locations, and it's not just one country. They do have literally global locations. So those universities are looking at virtual career fairs of a more, you know, like they have even more interest, so that they can actually connect their alumni who are literally all over the world, and students who are all over the world together through those virtual events. And another related to international students, I mean, I was one of them. I know the pain, the whole visa, like I've gone through all of that. So it's such a huge pain. And also I'm from Asia. I have quite a bit of interest or network in Asia Pacific. So another thing we're working on is international students career fair. So quite a lot of universities are interested in participating, because it's such a huge pain that none of us can really resolve. So if we can bring, we did pilot event last year, and if we can bring prominent companies that have offices in Asia Pacific or some other parts of the world and help them hire students from those regions back to home country, or temporarily or permanently, that would be a great opportunity to first resolve career issues, and second, get around the visa issues that every international students need to face at some point.